City leaders in the Franklin County town of Decherd were supposed to meet tonight to determine whether their police chief should be fired. But the mayor canceled the meeting at the last minute, saying the city's attorney needs to do more investigating. This all stems from why the department didn't dig deeper into the work history of former Decherd officer Matthew Ward before he was charged with an aggravated assault last month. Well, tonight the Decherd police chief answers questions from News Channel 5's Jason Lamb.
Decherd Police Chief Ross Peterson answered our questions for nearly an hour and a half Thursday. We asked him why his department didn't dig deeper into the past of former officer Matthew Ward. Previously, Peterson told us Ward hadn't signed a release allowing the police department to ask his former employers detailed questions about his past. But documents News Channel 5 obtained show Ward did sign a liability release. And Chief Peterson also issued a police policy less than 2 months before Ward applied, saying forms authorizing the release of information shall be completed and signed. Peterson even signed the new policy himself. Here was Peterson's response about all this today.
Signed by you.
When you interpret that policy, this release from liability is not in that policy.
We pointed the chief to his own policy number.
It is policy 800.021. It is under section B, preparing for the investigation, number 2. Forms authorizing the release of information shall be completed and signed by the applicant, and the entire policy that this comes from talks about background investigations. If that is not the form that this policy is referring to, what is?
That's not saying that you can't use this. It's saying that you're saying that forms can be authorized to check out. So, I mean, they fill out applications. It's supposed to, the investigator is supposed to tell them what they're going to ask them,
yes,
things that they can check into.
So if you signed a policy less than 2 months before Ward applied with your signature on it saying forms authorizing the release of information shall be completed, how can any reasonable person think that you didn't know that that form was there?
How can any reasonable person think that the person that made the form doesn't need to ask me? He just needs to pick up the phone and make the phone call.
While not answering that specific question, which we asked several times, Peterson did say it should have been the job of police investigator Greg King to call Fort Walton Beach Police to find out about Ward's blemished work history. But King told us last week Peterson specifically told him not to call.
Chief Peterson and I were talking, and I said I was going to call Fort Walton and find out what they had to say. He said, "Don't worry about that, he'll be fine." And I clarified, I said, "So you're telling me not to call?" He goes, "Yeah, it'll be okay."
No, I don't believe that.
Peterson today denied what King told us.
So are you saying the conversation didn't happen, or you can't remember?
I'm saying to you that I did not tell him that he does not have the authority to do his job and call down there.
And also still unclear is if or when another meeting will be scheduled about Chief Ross Peterson's future. Jason Lamb, News Channel 5.